everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Creative Visions TV. I'm your host, Karen Dahlman, and thank you for joining me once again. All right, this is going to be a really fun, cool, exciting, and enlightening interview. And how do I know this? Because I've known this woman who's sitting next to me right now for about 7 years, and she is the creator of the Archangel Board that I have with me right here. If you follow me on Facebook, you've seen me post her boards. If you watched the show before, you've seen me show this board time and time again on different events, different shows. And so here she is. We get to hear from her and her inspiration behind it. So let us welcome Dr. Yafi to the show. Welcome, Dr. Yafi.
Hello. Hi, Karen. It's so nice to be here with you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to have you here because, like I said, we've never met in person, you guys, but we've known each other since about 2016, and we have similar backgrounds. As you guys know, I'm a psychotherapist and a art therapist, and she is a clinical psychologist. So how does a clinical psychologist get involved in creating her own spirit board, angel board?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there are obviously a shorter version and a longer version and many in between.
Of course.
So I've always had my feet in both worlds. So the spiritual creative world and the clinical, scientific, mathematical world. I've always been kind of split in two since I was very, very, very little. So when it came down to pick a career, I thought psychologist was hands down everything I ever needed, everything I will ever need. It's obviously meant for me. So I went ahead and got my doctorate in clinical psychology, which took about, I think, 11 years.
It's a long process, you guys, seriously, because you got to get your bachelor's, your master's, and then you do your internship. It's a lot. So my hat's off to you.
Years, I think 5 years, 4 years of practicum before the full-time internship. It's forever work. It really is. But what's crazy is by the time that I graduated with the doctorate, I already had the sense that the clinical world lacked the passion and the openness I so desperately needed, because it's a part of my makeup. So it was like a slow process. Well, actually not so slow. It felt slow to me, but within the year of my internship, I chose to focus on hypnosis, which was my gateway to merge the clinical world with the spiritual world. And I did past life regressions and later QHHT, which is Dolores Cannon's hypnosis method, and just different sources. And I blended the clinical world and the spiritual world in my practice. And that's really how it all began. And in 2011, I had, I would say, probably my spiritual awakening, my last spiritual awakening.
Right.
So about 11 years ago, my mom crossed over, and that made my spiritual journey or my spiritual search very personal. All of a sudden, it became extremely significant for me to make contact with my mom. She was my best friend. So that's when I started practicing lucid dreaming and started having visitation and communication. And and I started maybe half a year before my mom crossed over. It's really like the universe prepared me, and she wasn't even sick yet. We didn't know. I started meditating daily for an hour every day. And I really just threw myself into the spiritual world. And again, and then she crossed over, and it made it very, very personal. And
so does she come to you in your dreams? You would become lucid and invite her in, or she came when you became lucid?
So I would put my intention in my head to become lucid with the intention of meeting her before going to sleep.
Nice.
And what I found back then, that every fourth night I had a lucid dream where she would come in the dream, but it wasn't a lucid dream anymore. So the second she appeared in the dream would just disappear, and it would just be me and her. And there were different stages of communication, how much she was able to communicate. So the first 2 years of her passing, she would come to me a lot, but she wasn't a clear communicator. And about 2 years after she crossed over, I was at the Monroe Institute, where I always have visitation from her. And she came to me, and it was a different kind of visitation. It was totally on her own terms. It wasn't me initiating it. So the visitation, all of a sudden, we were in the kitchen in Israel, where I grew up. I grew up in Israel. And there were plants all around, and there was like this guitar music that I obviously did not initiate. So it was obviously her created space to invite me. And for the first time, I heard her voice in my head in English.
Oh,
So the
interesting.
communication was purely telepathic, because I think in English.
Okay, I was going to
But
ask that.
obviously,
Okay.
yeah, but obviously with my mom, we spoke Hebrew. But in that visitation, 2 years after she died, that's, I guess, when she became completely clear. So she controlled the environment of the visit, unlike before. And she spoke to me only telepathically and in English. And she basically apologized. She didn't apologize, because she said it took me all this time to be able to communicate this way and to be clear. And since that visit, she has been visiting me much less frequently. So in my understanding, that's probably when she fully crossed over to wherever she needs to go to continue her own spiritual journey. But that's just my interpretation.
That is fascinating. So it started with these lucid dreams that you would help control. And then it became where she was able to control the experience, but was it like an out of body experience for you? What would you call it? Where were you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely out of body experience. And one of
Wow.
the way to know it, whenever the visitation end, there was no waking up, for example, like you do from a sleep. So whenever the visitation end, I would gently be lowered back to my body, and then I
Oh,
could open my eyes. But there was no break in the consciousness. I was fully awake, fully aware, out of body, and then slowly going into the body when the visitation end.
so you were like in the astral world, or astral levels, if that's what people usually call that.
Exactly.
Oh God, that's really fast. I didn't know that. That's a really interesting story. So that allowed you to kind of bridge when you were going through this whole clinical practicum stuff, right? With practicing your skills for yourself, really.
Exactly, exactly. And that's really what got me all the way into the spiritual world, developing my own spirituality in a really very personal way. So I
Mm.
connected to my own guidance, and the Monroe Institute really, really helped with that. And I started doing card readings, and my
Oh,
favorite cards were angel cards.
of course.
And at some point, I realized why the principle of cards, of doing tarot, but in an angelic, positive spin, all light and love, why can't I find it in a board? And I couldn't find it in a board. And
Okay.
that's what inspired me to create the Archangel Board.
Ta-da!
Ah,
Listen,
because,
you guys, I've
yes,
had this since 2016. I love this board. It comes with this sweet eight. Look at this, you guys. How cute is this? This is your planchette. It's a little angel. And she flies across this board. Now tell me, why archangels? Why not just angels? Why not just fairies? Something else? Why archangels? Because there's such power to that. But why
yes,
archangels for
there is.
you?
Well, I will say there's also a matter of timing, right? If I created another board today, maybe it would be fairies.
Okay.
So there is a matter of timing and where you are in your life. And like I said, I was really inspired by certain tarot decks I was working with, and they were very heavy on the angels, also with the archangels. What I like about the archangels, that different archangels have very specific frequency. So Archangel Michael feels differently than Archangel Raphael or Gabriel, or they have a different feel, different frequency. And because they're so powerful, I find it easier to notice, to detect the different frequencies, because spiritual energies can be very subtle, and they are very subtle. So it takes time to work with it. But the archangels have relatively definite and strong energy that's easy to detect. So I see this board as channeling 101. This
Ah,
is the
okay.
first step, and boards in general, the first step to how does it feel? I tell people, when people tell me, how do I start using the board? So I like to tell people,
Yeah,
start with
talk to us
yes.
about this. You guys, she loves
Yeah.
boards. So let's hear it. I got to hear from you.
Okay, so I always tell people start with yes and no answers,
Okay.
because what you're doing then is just getting the feel whether it's pulling to the left or the right. Are you being pulled to yes or no? So it's kind of an easy way to get the feel of the board. So you're the board expert. You know how it is. You need to be able to move, right? You can't, if you hold the planchette and I don't want to move it myself, so I'm not going to move it, and I'm pressing it down and it's
Yeah.
not going to move. On the other hand, you cannot be in total control and move where you want it to move. It's kind of a balance in between. You have to be in the flow. You have to feel where it wants to go, but also to allow it. Because if you don't allow it, your hand is not going to move.
It's such a right brain thing. If you get critical and judge it and try to control it, that's left brain, you guys. You got to get into this right brain creative thing. And we talk about this on the show all the time, Yafi. I'm telling you, we talk about getting into the flow of it. It's a pulling, it's an ice skating feeling. I mean, I've heard people use those terms when they try it too, but it's a very subtle. And once you grab it and you know what it is, it becomes very, for me, demonstrative. I could, like you said, you could start feeling all the various energies that come through, and you know the different spirit guides or the angels, like you said. That's fascinating. And the fact you brought up archangels too, I got to say, that's a very timely thing right now. Although they've been around forever, you guys. My point is, when I do readings, Archangel Michael's coming up all the time. That's not my thing. It's coming up for my clients. Have you noticed that too? The archangels are coming in more and more.
Yes, the angelic realm in general. We
Yes.
are, probably because these intense times we're going through, we can talk about the shift. I believe
Yes.
it is happening. We're in
Yes.
it. And there's a lot of energies, and people are having hard time. Some people are doing wonderfully, and other people are having hard time. And I think the angelic realm is, there's a lot there. So one, it's a place to connect through positive, high frequency and vibration, right? That's the board.
Yep.
So that's also what they're doing with us. So a lot of people are, the veil is thinning. We're learning to connect. We're learning to get messages. We're learning to feel our own guidance. And the angelic realm makes sure that we do it through the portal of love and light.
Very well said. I always say it's always through my heart I make these connections, and people are like, well, what does that mean? Well, it means that I feel it. I feel the connections, and I go with that flow, especially with the board or channeling. And by the way, okay, so I just want to say this to the audience. You guys know that it's not the board that works. It's ourselves. We're the ones that channel. And once you work with this tool, you might find yourself leaving the tools. A lot of famous people have over the years. You guys know I'm doing a lot more channeling. And guess what? Yafi's doing too. She's doing a lot of channeling directly because it's not the board. The board becomes a device, a tool to use to get to that point, and then you can jump up if you choose to. I just choose to stay on my board still. 50 years, Yafi, 50 years this year, 50 years. But I love also channeling directly, and I've been doing that for the last 10 years. So let's talk about that, because if you're in a clinical practice, you create this board, and then your practice has changed, and you're doing some other things now in the world. Tell us about that transition. That's interesting.
Yeah, so I still see individual clients, so I still do some hypnosis and counseling, but it's no longer what I focus on. So the past, I would say 2 years in my life, I've been full on focusing on channeling.
I love it.
Yes, I took a long form channeling training with Lisa Royal Holt. Some people may know the name. She does a lot of galactic stuff,
Yes.
ET languages. So she still is my teacher. And it felt natural to me right away. So I remember Lisa saying, for the purpose of this exercise, you can, if you're not sure you're channeling, just imagine you're channeling. I'm like, oh, that sounds so easy, to just pretend channeling. Who cannot do that? And I channeled before, so it wasn't even my first time. I'm like, okay, let's just do it. And and I did it, and it felt so natural and so easy and so in the flow, and it was I think, difficult for me to kind of understand that it's not like that for everyone.
It's not, but I like that you said it, because it really can be a simple process if we get out of our way. And that's,
Exactly.
do you want to explain a little bit? Because we haven't gone into whole deep, we usually talk about the board a lot for channeling, but you want to talk about how, if people want to start learning to channel,
Yes.
and you guys don't, this is not about you're gonna go channel some negative entity. It's what you believe you're gonna, you're gonna bring to you. It's about I mean, I'll say this: we're constantly channeling all day, all the time. We're getting inspirations, epiphanies, ideas, and thoughts, and we just don't attribute it to maybe our higher self or another, energy. But talk about it to us a little bit about, people learning to channel. They choose to.
Yeah, the word channeling is kind of weird. It has a lot of
Yes.
different connotations, and people have their own interpretations. But what you said is perfect. So channeling, we're all channeling all the time, especially if you're an artist,
Yes.
musician, or anything that you do, athlete, anything that you do when you get in the zone. That's usually how we call it. That channeling. And channeling does not even have to be channeling of a foreign entity, positive, negative, any entity. It really can just be channeling your higher self and channeling different aspects of the self. And it's still channeling. In fact, there is some belief that everything that we're channeling are aspects of ourselves. So that's one idea. So yeah, channeling, in my view, is learning to enter the flow. And for some people, it can be a long process or a complicated process. And for another person, it can just be just being, and you're in the flow. And it's just learning. So when I do verbal channeling, I close my eyes and I go inward. And it's like I put myself in this meditative state. For me, just one slow, deep breath is enough. I have a little invocation that I say inside. It's super short. I can share it with you.
Please, because this you guys, what she's saying transcribes to the board, because the board is channeling, okay? So it goes to the board, it goes to off the board. So go ahead, please share that.
Yes, when I do it with the board, I actually had a longer invitation, but the idea is the same. So when I do verbal channeling, I say to myself inside, I play in love and light. I open to source now. That's it. That's my invitation. And it's super brief and it's super simple, but I play, right? So I'll make myself feel that I'm playing. This is playing around. So you already put yourself in that high frequency when you're playing, when you're inviting. And I play in love and light. So the only realms I'm interested in are realms of love and light. And lucky for me, I was born with very little to no fear. So that part comes naturally to me. But I know it's not like that for many, many people. But if you put yourself in a space of no fear, and you cannot feel gratitude or love and light and be in fear, it just doesn't go together. So all you have to do is put yourself in that space when you're feeling love, when you're feeling playful, you're feeling your heart opening. And literally, that's enough protection from any entity, because they can just not reach you. If you're in this vibration and they're here, there's nothing that they can do to reach you. So I play in love and light. I open to source now. That's it. That's my invitation. Very simple.
You guys can try that yourself too. That's beautiful. It's just simple. I mean, you might want to meditate at first if you're new to this, or work on the energy. But I've always been told by the guides that if you just raise yourself and enjoy, in fun and play, raise that energy up to a higher level, that's where they can meet you. And that's where, and you guys, I always channel the guides. There's some higher energies or spirit guides, or sometimes deceased people, but I go to the energy level to bring it in that capacity of that energy. Really,
and that's why
all a simple choice.
Absolutely. And that's why with the board, you notice that I don't have goodbye here. Can you see?
Okay, listen, everybody goes, you don't do say goodbye. So okay, how can that board work?
I have gratitude. So what you do is you begin and end every session with gratitude.
Right there, by saying thanks in the beginning, I appreciate you allowing it to come through, you guys. You're setting that stage, that energy, and by ending it that way, you're ending it there. You're not doing anything down that's not going to be good for you. So I love that. I love that. And I had no problem. There was no goodbye on the board, because when I work a board, any of these boards, my planchette always stops here. You guys know that. It doesn't ever it's never gone to goodbye in my life.
And you can
Even
say
as a
goodbye.
child.
There's nothing wrong with saying goodbye,
Yeah, I
but
say goodbye, but there's no goodbye at the bottom.
yes.
Like this board here doesn't have goodbye either, if you guys notice that. This board back here has no goodbye on it either. Just the typical Ouija. That's not a Ouija, that's a Haskell, that's a talking board, right, you guys? So what Yafi created is not a Ouija board, because it's not the name. She created a spirit board or a talking board. In this case, it's an Archangel board. Isn't that cool?
Mm-hmm.
Love it, love it, love it. So, okay, she's so gracious to us. She's offering all the listeners here who are part of my channel. What's your special offering them if they choose to go and get an Archangel board from you directly?
Yes, so you can buy the Archangel board on Amazon, on eBay, or from me directly. If you buy it from me directly, and all you have to do is go to my website, yafichanneling.com, and there's an Archangel board tab, and you order it from me directly. It just means that you pay me directly via Zelle or PayPal, and mention Karen Dahlman's name. That's all you have to do. Mention Karen's name, and you only pay $25, including the shipping.
You guys, that's a bargain. $25, no shipping. That is your shipping. $25, even Steven, for the United States. Now, I know if you're in another country, it's not going to work. But the United States, you guys, $25, period. That's it.
If you are in another country, I do suggest eBay, because they have the international shipping program.
Yeah.
And it makes it easy.
Yeah, do that, you guys. But people in the United States, remember that. You just mention my name to her and you click that tab, go there, contact her. You'll get that discount. That's actually $8 off. Okay, that's a bargain for this board. I love this board. I love the box it comes in, you guys. It's a smaller box. It folds in half. And she has a little pamphlet in here. It talks about the Archangels, all right, which is good. And also a little prayer and a little bit of instructions. Most boards don't come with anything like this, but you can tell I love this board. And you guys, this is so cool. She sent me a box of these, a crate of these, okay? If you're coming to join me at Michigan Paracon this year in August, and I'll have the link below along with her link. If you want to get a board, get it from her, and you could take it to Michigan Paracon. But I will have some giveaways. Just gonna say, because Yafi was so gracious to us, so I can share some of these boards with you. So if you come, but only if you come to my event, you can sign up for it. I'm teaching a workshop there on using the board. So this is exciting. Thank you so much. That's very generous of you. This is an awesome board. It's great for your collection if you're a collector as well. But I don't know. I know a few of the boards out there have angels on it, but there's a few. But this one is just, the colors are just incredible. You really did a good job. If you got a good artist.
Thank you.
Yes.
Me.
You were the artist?
Yeah, I designed the whole thing.
Oh my God. I
built it. That's why I know it's only positive frequencies. I built this from scratch.
Oh my God. I love it. Well, you did a great job. I didn't realize you were a visual artist too.
You can put whatever name you want on it. Like I said, remember I said since I was little, I had feet in both worlds. I've always been very creative.
I love it.
It's still a part of my life. I still create things.
I love it, you guys. That's so cool. That even makes it more special. So also, along with the arts, you're into music. You're into intonations, making sounds. Do you want to talk to us about that? The vibrational field you work with?
Yes. Let's talk about that. So
neat.
Yeah. So one of the masters I channel regularly is Hathor. Now, some people know Tom Kenyon and know the Hathors. Believe it or not, I do not follow other channelers, so I actually do not know his work at all.
Yeah.
But people keep on mentioning his name to me, so we're probably doing
This is plural. Hathors, yeah, it's plural.
Yeah. So, but when she comes through me, I say she. They actually say we, so they do talk in plural. But when she comes through me, she's the divine feminine. So she's very feminine, very gentle, very flowy. So to me, she's a she. Yeah. And also in ancient Egypt, Hathor was known as an Egyptian goddess.
Yes.
She was the mother of all the gods. I was just in Egypt last November, so I learned that. I didn't even know. that Hathor, her symbol is the cow, and I didn't
Yeah,
know why. The reason is that she is the mother of all the gods. She gave from her milk, from her breast milk, to feed the gods. That's why she is the cow, because
I
the cow
love it.
gives milk, and she is the mother of all the gods. She's the nanny of all the gods. So
Wow. Okay,
so it goes
so
in line. So she's, you probably heard the archetypal, the mother.
yes.
So she also connects to that. Again, all goes back to the divine feminine. So going back to Hathor and the divine feminine, one of the things that she works with is sound and the voice. And that's very significant, both for Hathor in general, or the Hathors, but also to the divine feminine. The whole notion of expressing your voice and hearing your voice is actually very feminine. So when I started channeling her, occasionally there's some tuning that would come through different oohs and ohms and sounds, and it developed more and more and more. Sometimes it's whole chants or light language, which is another thing we can talk
Wow.
about
Okay, before you go on,
before I go on.
explain light language to the audience in case they're not familiar with it. By the way, here's Bear. Bear's been sitting here the whole time because he loves
Hi,
talking
Bear.
about Ouija boards. You guys know that he named himself on the board and he likes Yafi. So what can you say?
And I like
So
him.
yeah, tell us about this, what light language is in your opinion.
Yeah, so remember I said the channeling is really enter this state of flow. So that's what light language is, but with verbal channeling, you enter the state of flow and you channel words, you channel messages. With light language, you don't have to worry about the words and what they mean. So it can be tones, it can be sounds, it can actually be other languages.
Yeah.
It's a variety of things, but it's verbal sounds that you're making while entering the flow. And some people use body language and hands, and some people it's just tones. And that's really what light language. Now, there are a lot of, in the past or in certain religious settings, it's called speaking in tongues.
Yes. Okay, good.
But like I said, tuning and toning, just going om and oohs, and again, all these sounds, that's a part of light language. So it just depends how strict you want to be with your definition, but it's about entering the state of flow and expressing whatever wants to be expressed. And with light language, there are specific dialects, and you can hear different practitioners sounding somewhat similar, which is very interesting.
Yeah, you could see, you guys, you probably got on YouTube, you've probably seen this yourself, but there's some interesting people out there that work with it. One of the things that I did when I used to teach spiritual movement, sacred dance. I was a belly dancer, basically, Middle Eastern dancer. And I started learning some of the mudras, some of the hand symbols you might use that the people that did more of the dancing from India, they did the mudras. I think the mudras, that form of the language of your hands, was also some type of it was a communication for sure. But don't you think it also brought in that energy? And
Absolutely. So
yeah,
we think of communication as very verbal, but really
yeah.
communication is much more than that, right? So we're also giving facial expressions. We're also
Mhm.
giving body language and hands. We're also sending hormones and chemicals and pheromones through the air. So we're communicating in all these different ways that we don't even realize we're communicating telepathically. We're communicating energetically. Our auras are overlapping and we're not even aware of it. So our communication is so much more than the words that are coming out of our mouths.
So in a sense, we're channeling all that energy, all that
Yes.
frequency.
Yes. So
Okay.
what you mentioned with the mudras and the hands
Mhm.
is just another specific outlet to channel that energy.
Yeah, and they're sacred symbols. They actually have some mudras that mean certain things, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty extensive too. This is fascinating. And now, I had asked Yafi if she would be open to channeling for us here, and she said yes. So
Absolutely.
don't you guys want to see this? So would you think we should do some sound? How do you want us to get into this to follow you? And if you want to explain it too, how it's good, people are going to resonate with the frequency and the amplification of it. Like she
Yeah.
explained a lot of
So,
this to me already. So
so I'll
I
touch
had
what
a pre-class, guys.
So let me explain what field tuning is.
Ooh.
So as I channel Hathor, she makes all kind of sounds. It's kind of like singing and toning. And recently, actually, they explained that what they do is they make those sounds that make you yourself personally amplify, expand your own field, your own energetic field. And it expands to the point that we overlap each other. And we is whoever is present. So right now it's going to be me and you, Karen, but it's really
And
all
Bear.
the people, and Bear, of course.
Bear's right here.
Maybe even especially Bear, and all the people that are listening to us. So what it's going to do is going to expand our own energy fields until they overlap. And once we are overlapping and we're touching each other, we're going to start resonating in coherence.
Ooh, this is fun now. Explain coherence, everybody, because we talked about this earlier.
So I'm sure many of you have seen the experiment with the pendulums, not pendulums, metronomes. So what they did is they put a table with a lot of metronomes, dozens of metronomes, and they were all like going in different, and you know what a metronome, I hope you're a musician, a dancer, so I'm sure you know. But if there anyone that doesn't know, metronome is what keeps beats. So when musicians practice, exactly.
Or go.
And it stays the same pace and it doesn't change. Unless you change it manually, it doesn't change. So what they did, they put all these metronomes on a table and they started them in different times. So it's a mess. Everyone's going in a different time. And what you see after a while, and you can find it on YouTube pretty easily. And what you see after a while, that they start going in the same way. And it's supposed to not happen, because a metronome once starts, it's not supposed to change its pace at all. That's what it's for. But they all start going in coherence. And after not a long time at all, they all go in exactly the same rhythm. So you see all those dozens of metronomes in perfect coherence with each other. So that's what's happening to us energetically. First, we're expanding, so we're actually touching each other, and then we're starting moving. We don't have to move, it's internal, but resonating in coherence.
Okay, so in that sense,
that
our
amplifies.
It matches. We start to resonate together in coherence. Okay, great. All right. So you set the stage. You show us how to do this.
So I'm going to invite Hathor in, and Hathor is going to send us all kind of sounds, and you're going to see how it feels. And then, if you want, you can interview Hathor and ask her some questions.
Oh, I will.
So let's do it.
Let's do it. So what should we do here in the audience? Should we close our eyes, or?
You can, yes. So, so another thing about thing about the field tuning. So when somebody else channels, if you're very sensitive to energies, a lot of people they feel the energy come in, they feel different things in their body. But if you're not that sensitive, you may still feel the field tuning, which is what's so cool.
Okay.
So the only reason I recommend closing your eyes and kind of settling into yourself, because this is an opportunity for you to actually feel what it feels like, that energy going through you and your field expanding.
Oh, I love this, because here we go, you guys. That's that feeling you get when the planchette moves. So here we go. This is channel.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. All right, let's do it.
I'm going to close my eyes. I invite you guys to join me too. So I'm going to do that.
So I'm just going to take a deep breath and say my invitation inside, and we're going to start. Hathor will come in and say and do what she wants to say and do.
Great, thank you.
ha sa no ha hei no ho pashesta hanno homaharona heso homahai hom ni hola hopa hesan no honna na ho hase herano haponi ha heso ono horam. Blessings to you. This was but a brief demonstration of field tuning and a little bit of a light language blessings from our friends over here, up here with us. We say up here for your enjoyment. In reality, we are all here overlapping in one way or another. We were actually quite gentle with this energy transference to match the wide variety of individuals that can be exposed to it and still benefit from it. We hope that you got the chance to feel it for yourself. There are many directions we can take this conversation, but we can also open it for questions and allow you to lead the way in this conversation.
Absolutely. Greetings, Hathor. Thank you for joining us.
It is our pleasure to be here with you.
And I notice you speak in a collective. Can you tell us more about that? There's several, it sounds like, with you.
Indeed. You may call us a collective, and we do include many what you would consider separate entities or personalities. However, we have been working and playing together for what you would consider eons, giving us the ability to also function as one being. And in the same idea that was explained to you with the field tuning, this is also true for any kind of work. So coming together as a group, as a collective, amplifies your individual abilities, so the whole becomes more than the sum of its parts. So we are indeed a collective. There are many that are a part of our collective, and some of them you know by different names, either from ancient Egypt or different names that people have named us over civilizations. An example would be Aphrodite or Venus. These goddesses of love and of femininity are actually names that were given by people to personalities from this specific cluster. Now, when I come forth talking to you, I can be I can be an individual, as I do have my own personality, my own makeup. But generally speaking, we do operate as a field, as a field would be the right way to say it, of many that have come together for the shared purpose of growth and expansion and assistance to those who are ready for it.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. That explains a lot about the collective and how working together could be the one or the many. Very beautiful. So my other question here is about Yafi. So Yafi, must have opened to you? How does she come in contact with you? Is there some kind of soul contract or work that you've been doing over the eons together?
Yes, absolutely. As soon as she opened to channel in a more structured and regular way, we made an appearance. We knew that this was going to be a lasting relationship, as indeed this is a part of her mission in this lifetime. So, but we allowed the truth of it to unfold very gently in order not to overwhelm the system. We have come to learn that the human system is quite delicate. You are balancing a lot of different forces within you, and therefore, all helpers, all spiritual helpers, as you would call them, need to take extra care in how delicate we are with the information we bring through. So indeed, there is, we would say, a familiarity between the being you know here as Yafi and our shared mission. And this is not new, as she walked the earth at the times of ancient Egypt as a part of our collective. So her familiarity with us is not new, but in this life, we've been working to her awareness together for approximately 2 years, and this relationship will continue.
Yeah, and Yafi was talking to us about coherence and the amplification of that coherence as energies overlap. And that was very well said, because it seemed to me explained also what Yafi was telling us earlier about with the metronomes. So, for my audience here that is listening to the show into the future when I release it, what would you like to tell them? Because there's so much going on in the world, and there's so much going on in our own personal worlds for people, that I feel like we're all trying to find a way to find our way back or our way forward, in joy, and to bring that into our life. I know people are doing that in some regards, but things are a little harder, as I know you guys can understand that. When I say guys, I really mean everybody there, right? In our terms, we might say guys or gals, or just the guys is what I say for everybody. So no offense, please. But what could you say to the audience here to help them manage their own coherence, maybe with others or themselves, or with their own spiritual guides or higher self, to move forward in life and find a lovely path, a path that's more
Indeed.
found in joy? What would you say?
Yes. These times on your planet are exciting. There is a lot going on, and a lot is coming up to the surface. So you as an individual have to accept and respect the phase your society is in. Your civilization is in a stage where everything is bubbling up to the surface. From our perspective, this is a necessary and what you would say positive movement forward, as things can no longer be buried. Things have to come to awareness to be embraced or resolved, depending on how you choose to look at it. However, you may notice it in your life as well. Things are coming up to the surface. Fears that were quite quiet may come up to the surface. Voices that you may not like may come up to the surface. Now it is your job as a growing individual, as an enlightened spiritual being, to take these voices and fears and listen to them with discernment that maybe you did not have 2 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago. So you are given an opportunity today to become bigger and more expansive than ever before. But in order for that to happen, you must embrace all aspects of the self. So Do not worry if you notice your mind being extra chatty. Do not worry if you are becoming aware of your own fears, your own insecurities, and maybe even some baggage that is beyond your own personality. So some may see it as ancestors, some may see it as past lives. However you choose to look at it, there is information and energy leaking from other realms. This is only because you are able to handle it today. We
Thank you.
don't know if we should continue or allow the space for clarifications, follow-ups, or any other questions you may have.
Well, as you were speaking, I can resonate with that, the shifts and changes in how we're being asked to see the things that we don't want to see, like the shadow side, talk about archetypes, or the shadow side of what's going on in different governments around the world. So I
Exactly.
resonate with that. And I think the people who are watching are going to see that as well, because people are being asked to change in big ways. And I love the fact that you can say that that's really a positive thing, although some hard things happen along the way. Can you speak? I do have one more thing to ask you, because I love talking about this topic myself, and I work with my guides and they talk about it as well. The higher self, the concept of that higher, greater self. Can you speak to that and how people can connect with that even more so in their lives?
Yes. So as you know, you are indeed a spiritual being inhabiting a body. So this aspect of yourself, this physical being, is very real, and it is indeed you, but it's only a portion of you. The more zoomed out and bigger perspective you can have, the smaller the portion is in proportion to the whole. Now, connecting to your higher self is merely learning to expand this tiny speck. And you are tiny, but you are also mighty. So don't feel that you are powerless. You are tiny because you are part of something humongous beyond imagination. But you are mighty because you are part of something humongous beyond imagination. So the whole idea of connecting to your higher self is learning to extend your awareness to realms that vibrates beyond the physical matter, the physical realm that you are familiar with. And the more you learn to expand yourself, the more easily information flows through you. And it doesn't have to be information like the verbal information that we're exchanging right now. It can be emotions, it can be inspirations, it can be any form of energy that is within your own personal flow. And yes, of course, it can be expanding and with your higher self, tuning into other sources you may be interested in. We know that you were talking about the angelic realm, and we will say, yes, it has strong significance in your world today. And we invite you to use your intention to make connections to the angelic realm and through the angelic realm, as it is a sort of gateway for you directly into the light.
Beautiful. Very well said. And I know life isn't all just angels and fairies and light. Part of what's in the light is also the darkness. And that's just, two sides of the coin. Can you speak to that darkness? And I think when I said the word darkness, people go, oh, evil. Or when I talk about Ouija boards, that's evil. So maybe you could speak to darkness doesn't mean evil. I know that, but people tend to associate that. Maybe you could talk about that, how the darkness was given a bad rap and it became this evil thing. Maybe you could talk to us about maybe the nature of evil.
So instead of using the word evil, we will use the word contrast. And we will say that what humans consider as evil or as negative in general, like you use the word darkness, is here intentionally. So we know that some of you are more okay with this idea, other reject it with passion, but you elected, not only elected to be here in this dichotomous world of yours, you created this dichotomous world of yours with the intention and the desire to experience polarity in a physical manner. So it is true that in your polar dichotomous world, there is no light without darkness because they reflect each other. They are literally, we would say, opposite sides of the same coin. As long as you remember, it is actually the same coin. The sides touch each other. They are not separate. So when you talk about darkness, there are different ways to look at it. So there's the shadow, any emotions or thoughts or concepts within yourself that you consider bad, whether it's anger or sadness or anything that is unpleasant for you to experience. This is a part of the so-called darkness. And we will say that despite some resistance that even this vehicle is expressing as we're about to say this, unpleasant experiences are not by necessity bad. Experiencing sadness and anger and fear may not be pleasant, however, it is beneficial. Experiencing everything that you've experienced to this day does make you who you are today. And if you think about it in simpler terms, for example, a negative or even traumatic experience that you may have had maybe helped you become a more compassionate person, maybe a deeper, less superficial person, maybe less judgmental to others who are in this current low place. And this is just one layer to look at it. There are much higher layers, but then it becomes more abstract and more difficult to express in language. But the light and the darkness are one of the same as you explore and learn this world. With that being said, we would like to reaffirm that you are a being of light, each and every one of you. There is no darkness that is more vast or could overpower your light. There just isn't, because the darkness is a part of the light. So in this metaphor, if the coin has one dark and one light side, think of the whole coin, including the borders, as light source. So the whole coin here, and yes, we created a very big coin. The whole coin here is of the light, despite its dark side, if this makes sense. So there is no darkness that can overpower you. That is why whatever fear you have, if you can keep it in perspective, with the greater view of the beautiful, powerful spark of light that you are, it becomes adaptive. And we will leave it here and allow the psychologist that is interviewing us to decide where she would like to take the conversations next, the therapist.
Thank you so much, Hathor. I really appreciate you being here. The group that came through, beautiful words. I hope the audience enjoyed that too. And thank you for sharing and shining your light for us so we can see some of these concepts and ideas and understand them better in a different language. Appreciate
We're
it. Thank you.
so happy to share this space here with you. And we feel your frequency. You have a very, we would say, unique frequency of light that is here on a very specific mission and is doing so quite successfully. So we congratulate you for all the light and fun and knowledge you are bringing to all around you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And with our love and gratitude, we will now depart this body and bring you, Yafi, back.
Nice. Wow. Wow. Very, very deep, very, very well done. Thank you for bringing that energy through. How do you feel coming out of it? What does that feel like to you? Because I like to people to understand on this channel when you channel what that energy is like.
How it feels.
Like while you're doing
On
it,
a physiological level.
physiological and emotional.
Yeah. So physically, I always get warm, physically
Okay.
warm.
Okay.
And I always start sweating, and I don't sweat like in regular life, but I sweat during channeling. My eyes get watery, so that's the physical part of it. It's actually very energizing.
Yeah.
So I know people talk about channeling is draining. This
Not
is
for me
not
either.
how I experience it.
Not me neither.
I feel the energy. So if I channel for a long time, I get like shaky afterwards because I'm like, whoa, all this energy.
That is so funny because I'm the same when I channel, but it's director on the board, I get revved up. I get this energy. It feels like love, pure love flowing through me. And I'm just like, I'm bouncing off the walls. Like I could be doing coast to coast at 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. And I'm like still boop, 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 boop. Right?
Exactly. So it's very energizing. It's because I think it's pretty intense energy running through you. And I think, and this is my theory, I think if you're a clear enough vessel to allow it to go through you without too much contamination, you know, because the contamination wastes energy. It's a battle. So if you can just be clear, maybe that's when it's not draining.
Yeah. That's interesting to think of it that way. Yeah, because I don't feel like there's anything impeding it when I work either. And I don't feel like it's like I'm fighting it or maybe, but I gotta tell you, so people have told me this, Yafi, and tell me if you've heard this too. When people are beginning to channel, I'm talking about the board. I've had people have like physical experiences, like feeling sick or nauseous or getting a headache. And I've always attributed to, and the guys have told me, and they're saying, yes, tell them, it's like you're clearing out. They said you're always clearing out. It's like toxicity or your blockages. That's a better way. It's clearing out so you can have that filter open more. So that's interesting you said that because that's what I've learned as well over the years of doing this channeling work.
Yeah, it's a process of clearing, but also you're literally changing your frequency.
That's it.
As you're clearing up, you're raising your own vibration. And there's specific actually headache at the back, at the base of the skull here on both sides that people get when their frequency starts changing.
That's very specific. People say that back here and they feel like they want to throw up sometimes. It's like that whole sense. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, throwing up. So there are a few things. Getting nauseous. It's either fear and control, which go together, right? You feel the change, you want to control. That also happens with psychedelics, but that's a different conversation.
That's a whole nother interview, you guys.
But it's the same thing. It's the same thing. The fear and the desire to control causes nausea. So that's very, very common. But also when you have a lot of intense energy running through you, you are going to have some physical symptoms. So for me, for example, I get hot. I get really, really hot.
Okay.
So, but I don't get nauseous. I've never gotten nauseous.
I just get super charged.
Yes.
Like I've drank a pot of coffee, but because I don't need coffee, I have energy anyway, but I just get like, it's like, whoa.
Absolutely. I get like that too.
When after you channel, you feel so clear to messages that you could just like write a book.
Yes, and I did.
That's what I did too.
Yes.
Thank you so much for channeling. I was hoping we would do that. And I don't know. I don't know how long it went on because I was so into the movement, but let me tell you what, this is so cool. So you guys, when she was doing this, the intonation, the sounding, the singing, I don't know what you want to call it, but the sounds coming through.
Field tuning.
Okay. I found myself automatically doing this and I wasn't even trying to do that. And I go, whoa, I'm in this movement. I'm just going to follow it. So it was like the planchette, you guys, in a way. I became the planchette. I felt this movement and I just wanted to bathe in it. And then I noticed that my cat's energy, I could feel him moving up. And when I opened my eyes, there he was like, whoop, he was like, oh, what's that sound? He was totally, I have to go back and watch the video, but it felt like I could feel him move up because I felt his tail drop to my legs. And then I opened my eyes at the end and he was like up. I think he was really brought forward by that energy, moved by the energy.
Animals, and especially cats, are really, really sensitive to this type of energy. Yes. And you're going to find dogs either running away to a different room and hiding.
Oh, interesting.
Or coming and sitting right by you, wanting to feel this more. Again, depending on their personality, because again, it's a lot of energy. So even, animals also have different personalities. You have your anxious animal that hides from every little sound and every person. And that kind of animal that feels strong energy may go and hide.
Yeah. And I feel like, animals resonate more on that telepathic level. Like when Jack and I wrote the book over here, you guys seen the book, that's Jack's book. Go get one. You can get it on Amazon. But it's interesting when he came to me to tell me the story, it was telepathically. And then it was all through emotions. And I had to feel him and understand. And right now, Bear is knocking my camera here. You guys, sorry. Bear, what are you doing? He's helping mommy today. He just said, I'm helping you. Okay, you're helping me. But the animal, so here we go again. See? All right, hey. Okay, so you guys, sorry about this. Okay, there we go. All right. So anyway, so I had to feel him and Jack was an animal that was very abused and very fearful of a lot of energies. But when it came to the board, he actually loved it. And we communicate through the board, Yafi, and he would also talk to me telepathically, emotionally, and energetically. And so we talk about the energy, the animals definitely respond that way. And I find that's how you do animal communication, is through the emotions, the vibrations, the energies.
Yes, that's one of the things that came to me naturally, that I started picking up animals' communication. And what's interesting that it's for me, things are very subtle. And because they're so subtle, sometimes they seem obvious. So my dog would look at me and I would tell my husband, oh yeah, he wants to go out. I'm like, how do you know? Maybe he wants food. Maybe no. And it's so obvious to me that I feel like everybody knows that. But because, it's so natural that we don't even realize sometimes. And again, it's definitely true for me when we're tapping into it. Because it's so very natural. True. We're just not used to paying attention.
Yeah. And again, I think how you started this whole conversation was about the subtle energies and learning to feel them. And I was saying they become stronger and demonstrative, which is what happens when you start doing this work. You guys, wasn't this fun? I mean, there's so many things we could still talk about, but I want her to have a chance to tell you where to find her website again. And once again, tell her about the offer on the boards if you want to get one of these wonderful, beautiful Archangel boards.
Yeah. So currently I do channeling every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And that's, again, you can find all the information on my website, but I do verbal channeling once a week, and people come and ask questions and speak just like Karen just did, and speak to Hathor, or I channel other guides as well and ask them questions directly. And also I teach light language. So that's fun. Live small Zoom groups. It's absolutely wonderful. And you can find all my information on yaffichanneling.com.
Okay.
And that's also where you can buy the Archangel Board. And remember to mention Karen Dahlman's name. And don't order it. You can order it on Amazon or eBay, but then you won't get the discount. So if you want this special offer, get it directly from me. mention Karen Dahlman's name, and just like that, all you have to pay is $25, and I will,
$8 off, you guys. That's a bargain.
yeah, and I
That's
will ship
awesome.
it to you.
Thank you again for offering that. She hasn't offered that before. She's offering it to you guys. And I'm thrilled. So thank you so much. This has been an absolute blast. I knew it would be fun. I was so looking forward to speaking with her. We've emailed over the years. But
right.
This is great seeing you. And I keep saying seeing her in person. We're so used to doing Zoom. So I feel like
Yes.
we're in person. But I
Yes,
mean,
we're
gosh.
finally meeting.
We're finally meeting. We will meet in person someday soon. I know we will. Because you guys, this is weird. Okay. So I've been in contact in the desert a few times. I think I've told you guys about that. And one of the last years I went there was 2019. And guess who was there?
I was there.
And we didn't say
didn't
so.
know.
We didn't know. I guess we just didn't talk about it. And you guys, it's thousands of people there. So you don't necessarily bump into everybody, but sometimes you do. So yeah, that was cool.
Right.
I love your board. It's awesome. I know a lot of my friends that are in Talking Board Historical Society. They all have one. They collected part of their collection too. I have rows of boards above me and down the aisles here. You can't see it, but I have my collection of boards all over the place, all over my house. Boards are fun, fabulous, and you can also, use a angel board if you feel more inclined than just using a regular Ouija or a different kind of talking board. So,
yeah. The idea is just to learn to connect to your own inner self, inner guidance, and learn to be in the state of flow.
God, I love that. Thank you so much. And I want to say thank you again for joining us here, Yafi. It's been fantastic.
Thank you, Karen. It's been a great.
And I want to say to you guys, thank you for joining us. And just remember, find your way to get into the flow and learn to channel your higher self and maybe even your spirit guides and angels. But know what I love what Hathor said is that light and dark coexist, and they really are all of the same source, which is light. So get out there and have a fantastic day. And thank you again for being here. I'm Karen Dahlman, Creative Visions TV, Dr. Yafi Yair here in the house. Until next time, bye-bye.